Have you ever felt guilty for simply becoming who you are? Maybe you've noticed that every step forward in your life, every job promotion, new relationship, or glimpse of happiness seems to trigger a silent tension between you and your mother. You can't quite explain it, but it's there, heavy and suffocating, as if your own joy is a betrayal. This invisible battle isn't random. It's the hidden legacy of maternal jealousy and emotional inheritance passed down quietly through generations of women. You weren't meant to see it, but your body remembers. Those unexplained headaches, that chronic fatigue, the anxiety that strikes just when things are going well, these aren't just random symptoms. They're somatic trauma responses, silent screams of an unspoken family pain that you carry without knowing. Your mother isn't consciously punishing you. She's grieving the woman she never got to become, and your growth is the reminder of all she buried inside herself. But here's the truth that changes everything. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward liberation. You're not destined to repeat this cycle. You have the power to rewrite a legacy that never belonged to you. In this video, you'll finally understand why your body carries the pain your mother couldn't name, how maternal care can turn toxic without anyone noticing, and how breaking generational cycles isn't betrayal, it's healing. If you're ready to transform confusion into clarity, tension into freedom, and silent suffering into authentic connection, keep watching. This could be the most important conversation you never knew you needed. And if what you hear resonates deeply, don't forget to like and subscribe, because healing is a journey we take together. She didn't plan to trigger her mother. She just started growing, slowly, quietly, and beautifully. She got her first apartment. She began to speak more confidently. She looked in the mirror and, for the first time, didn't flinch. But instead of celebration, there was a strange shift at home. Her mother became colder, subtle comments, passive critiques. A silence that wasn't empty, it was loaded. This wasn't rejection, it was memory. The mother wasn't reacting to her daughter. She was reacting to a younger version of herself, a version that still lived inside her body, unlived, unfulfilled, unforgiven. In homes where women were told to shrink, love comes with invisible rules. Don't shine too much. Don't feel too free. Don't surpass the woman who raised you. This is where mother-daughter trauma hides, in the undercurrent of guilt that flows beneath every moment of pride. The daughter wants to celebrate, but she feels like a traitor. Not because her mother said anything cruel, but because the air feels heavier. This is maternal jealousy without name. And it's not always conscious. It's the nervous system of a mother, mourning the woman she never had the chance to become. The daughter absorbs it, not in words, but in the body. Fatigue, clenched jaw, a tight chest when she says, "I'm happy." That's not weakness. That's emotional inheritance. It's how transgenerational trauma speaks when no one else does. When a mother suppresses decades of grief, rage, and longing, those feelings don't disappear. They settle. They wait. And often, they pass through the bond, especially when the daughter begins to walk the path the mother was forced to abandon. The mother's discomfort becomes the daughter's anxiety. The daughter's freedom becomes the mother's wound. And then comes the confusion. The daughter asks herself, "Why do I feel guilty for succeeding?" Or, "Why does my body collapse every time I feel joy?" These aren't random psychosomatic symptoms. They're somatic trauma responses, echoes of a life that came before hers. She's carrying her mother's unfinished story, not because she chose to, but because no one told her it wasn't hers. And the most dangerous part? She'll think she's just anxious, just lazy, just ungrateful. When in truth, her nervous system is keeping her safe from a love that turned into a cage. This is the trap of the toxic maternal bond. Its pain is invisible, but its rules are strict. The daughter learns to dim herself, not through punishment, but through protection. Don't be too big or she'll pull away. Don't be too bright or you'll burn her. This loyalty is not chosen, it's inherited. And it lives in small daily choices, saying yes when she means no, hiding joy so no one feels less, overworking just to prove she deserves her own life. The daughter thinks she's being kind, but her body knows she's disappearing. And this disappearance doesn't just cost her dreams, It costs her health, her pleasure, her presence. Chronic stress, hormonal imbalance, autoimmune issues. These are often the price of being the family container for unprocessed pain. This is not just psychology. This is biology. Generational suffering leaves biochemical fingerprints. And unless someone stops the cycle, it continues silently. The daughter becomes the woman her mother was, until one day, her own child triggers the grief she never named, and the story repeats again. But it doesn't have to. Awareness is the first rupture. When the daughter starts asking, "Whose pain is this really?" a door opens. She doesn't need to blame her mother. She just needs to stop carrying her fate. Mother-wound healing begins not with confrontation, but with clarity. The clarity to name the pattern, the strength to break it, and the softness to still love her, even from a safe distance. There are tools that can help: embodiment practices, somatic healing, nervous system repair. If that path speaks to you, check the resources in the first pinned comment. They were chosen for daughters like you, because becoming yourself shouldn't feel like betrayal. It should feel like birth. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how maternal love, when entangled with fear, can distort itself into control. If you've ever wondered why your mother's care sometimes felt like quiet sabotage, what comes next might explain everything. Some daughters don't grow up with harsh mothers. They grow up with kind ones, mothers who cook, who call, who worry. And yet, something always felt heavy. The "I'm just trying to help" came with a sting. The compliments had hidden corrections, and the concern came with a subtle sense of control. This isn't cruelty. It's unprocessed fear disguised as love. And that kind of love doesn't nurture. It traps. It teaches the daughter that safety depends on obedience, and that freedom will cost her the relationship. That's how trauma hides in care. A mother who never healed her own mother wound often becomes overprotective, anxious, and emotionally fused with her child. She calls it closeness. But it's really enmeshment. The daughter doesn't know where she ends and her mother begins. Her choices are filtered through a silent question: will this upset her? And slowly her intuition gets replaced by hypervigilance. She reads the room before she reads her own heart. This is emotional inheritance in action, a nervous system trained to seek safety in self-abandonment. The worst part? The daughter calls it normal. She thinks her people-pleasing is kindness, that her fatigue is laziness, that her anxiety is just who she is, but the truth is deeper and darker. These are psychosomatic symptoms of living under a love that demanded self-erasure. She learned to anticipate moods, suppress desires, and shrink herself to fit a mold her mother never questioned. And now, as an adult, she can't rest without guilt, can't feel joy without dread, can't choose herself without panic. That's not personality. That's a trauma pattern. This is how maternal care becomes a cage. It wasn't always loud. It wasn't always cruel. Sometimes it came with cookies, kisses, and cozy blankets. But behind the warmth was a warning: stay close or I'll fall apart. Be good or I'll stop smiling. Don't change too much or I won't recognize you. These messages weren't spoken, but they were felt, and the daughter's body in its wisdom responded with symptoms: migraines, skin rashes, digestive issues. Not as weakness, but as rebellion. The body says no when the mouth can't. For working-class women, this dynamic can be even more brutal. A daughter becomes her mother's emotional support system by age 10. She comforts, mediates, listens. She watches her mother suffer through dead-end jobs, silent marriages, or untreated depression. And a part of her decides unconsciously, I'll never be the reason she hurts more. So she overfunctions, overworks, overgives, until her own body collapses. This isn't just exhaustion, it's inherited sacrifice. The sacred feminine distorted into servitude. But healing doesn't come from blaming the mother. It comes from seeing the pattern, understanding that the trauma wasn't in what was done, but in what was expected, in what was never allowed. Daughters were taught that love means carrying the pain of others, that care means disappearing, that empathy means exhaustion. But that's not love, that's lineage, and it can be rewritten. Nervous system healing, somatic therapy, and inner child work are not luxuries. They're survival tools for women breaking generational cycles. The daughter who dares to choose herself won't be met with applause. She'll be met with guilt, resistance, maybe silence. But something powerful happens when she keeps going anyway. Her symptoms begin to shift. Her breath deepens. Her sleep returns. Not overnight, but inch by inch. She no longer needs to perform to feel safe. She no longer asks for permission to be well, and the cage that once felt like love, it dissolves into memory, and she realizes the freedom she feared was never the enemy. It was the medicine. And in the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when the daughter no longer runs from her own light, when she integrates what she once had to hide. Because surviving your mother's love is not the end. Becoming who you were before the fear began. That's where the real story starts. And if you've felt this in your own skin, check the pinned comment. I've gathered tools for daughters like you so you don't have to carry this alone anymore. There comes a moment, quiet but irreversible, when the daughter stops running. She's no longer trying to fix her mother, no longer shrinking to be loved, no longer living under the spell of inherited guilt. And in that stillness, something rises. Not anger, not revenge, but clarity. A vision of the woman she might have been all along. Strong, soft, sovereign. It's terrifying at first because this version of her doesn't fit the family mold. She doesn't apologize for taking up space. She doesn't ask permission to exist. She is the interruption the lineage never saw coming. But what now? What happens after the rupture? After she stops living through her mother's gaze? This is where many women get lost. Because awareness alone isn't healing. Freedom doesn't come just from knowing the wound. It comes from embodying the opposite, from choosing the life the pain once denied. That's the work of integration. It's not poetic. It's not always beautiful. It's messy, boring, repetitive, but it's real. It looks like saying no without guilt, resting without justification, feeling pleasure without bracing for punishment. At first, it feels like betrayal. The nervous system panics. The body asks, "Are you sure it's safe to be this visible?" That's when the ghosts of emotional inheritance try to pull her back. The daughter hears her mother's voice in her own thoughts. She second-guesses her joy, feels guilty for choosing ease. But if she stays with it, breathes through it, something shifts. Her symptoms lose power. Not because they magically vanish, but because they're no longer needed. The body finally believes, we are not in danger anymore. This is the moment when trauma turns into wisdom, when maternal jealousy no longer defines her relationships, when she stops auditioning for love. She no longer exists to soothe anyone's discomfort. She doesn't need to be the good daughter. She's not here to carry anyone's unprocessed pain. And strangely, that's when love becomes possible again, because it's no longer based on sacrifice. It's based on truth, on presence, on connection without performance. And this too is part of mother wound healing, learning how to stay without disappearing. But the path is not linear. She'll still be triggered. She'll still crave approval on bad days. Her body will still remember the old dance, and that's okay. Integration is not perfection, it's commitment, a daily choice to return to herself. She no longer waits for her mother to understand. She no longer needs validation from the person who taught her to fear her own voice. She honors where they came from, but refuses to end up in the same place. That's how generational trauma ends, not with war, but with refusal. For daughters of the working class, this integration often includes grieving what was never possible. A mother who never rested. A family that never healed. A history that asked too much too soon. But grief is sacred. It breaks the spell. It makes room. And through that grief, the daughter begins to create a new legacy. One where rest is not laziness, where joy is not selfish, where love is not control. She becomes the woman her lineage never had. And that changes everything. Now, her body becomes the proof of her healing. She walks differently, speaks differently, feels differently. Not because the past vanished, but because she stopped letting it speak for her. She no longer carries the silence. She no longer stores the sorrow in her muscles. Her identity is no longer a reaction. It's a creation. That's the power of integration. It doesn't erase the story, it rewrites the ending. And for the first time, she's the one holding the pen. This video was never just about pain. It was about memory, about reclaiming what was buried inside you and returning it to the light. And if you felt something real in your chest while watching this, don't let it fade. Comment below what this awakened in you, and let this space become the start of something sacred. The tools in the pinned comment are there for a reason. Use them. Healing isn't something you deserve later. It's something your body is already asking for now. You've seen it now, not just the pain, but the pattern. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The mother wound, the emotional inheritance, the symptoms you thought were just your fault. They were never yours to carry in the first place, but your body held them anyway. Out of love, out of survival, out of loyalty to a lineage that taught you to protect others before protecting yourself. Now the question is, what will you do with that awareness? Will you keep abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable? Will you keep silencing your truth just to avoid their discomfort? Or will you finally choose yourself, fully, unapologetically, and without guilt? Because healing isn't just a feeling, it's a choice, a radical daily decision to break the cycle not with anger, but with presence, to stop passing down what was never processed. To stop calling trauma love just because it came from someone who meant well. Your light is not a threat. Your joy is not selfish. Your voice is not too much. It's exactly what your lineage has been waiting for. So breathe. Take the next small step. Journal what moved you. Speak what you've never dared to say. Let your nervous system feel what safety actually means. And above all, remember this. You are not the pain. You are the one who's breaking it. Now I want to hear from you. What part of this video hit you the hardest? What truth do you feel ready to integrate into your life starting today? Leave it in the comments and let this be your first act of liberation. And if you're looking for practical tools to help you go even deeper, check the first pinned comment. I've selected them with care for daughters like you, and don't forget to subscribe. The next video might be the one that finally sets something free.